14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Louis Armstrong, possibly the slowest of the Bond songs we've gotten.
Yeah.
But quite beautiful, quite beautiful.
Kind of fitting and very fitting.
Very fitting. All right, so thank you everyone for joining in. Welcome to 00 Deep Dive. We're back again after another short hiatus. Things, we got lots of kids and lots of things going on, and I'm talking about myself here because actually Ginny was game for weeks, and I'm the one who just was like, I can't do it. But anyway, thank you for joining us for 00 Deep Dive, Pop Culture Pros, home for everything 007. And I don't know if you know this, Ginny, but the 00 Deep Dive name is becoming a brand at Pop Culture Pros. They did the Scream Deep Dive under the 00 Deep Dive banner.
What?
Yeah. Another Jader, who's a guest. He's a friend of the Granny's Peach Tea, and he has a show that's been on hiatus for a while here. Is a huge fan. Knows has read books about these movies, and so him and Eddie, he convinced Ed to take on yet another podcast because Ed doesn't have enough of them.
You just hop in there.
That's
no problem.
And they did like a short mini run where they did two movies an episode. So
nice.
Yeah, so with this, even if we're not here as often as we'd like to be, the name and the brand lives on in the PCP family.
It carries on. Classic.
It carries on. But anyway, I am your host, Jason. The best. I think I'm the second best bald supervillain, right after today. I think we can. say that.
Yeah, man. But you could take some notes from this guy. It's very prescient. It's very modern. His
prescience.
Yeah. Prescient. Yes, you're the English teacher. You know.
Yeah. Look, I don't always rely on me for those things. But yeah, and with me as always is the best damn Bond girl in the franchise, Ginny. How are you today?
I'm good, Dame Ginny. What if I was a dame? Because Dame Diana Rigg. I know. Yeah, I was like, I wrote that down in my notes. I was like Tracy, but I was like, oh no, her name is Dame Diana Rigg, and I'm rest in peace, and I'll use her title properly. But yeah, you are like a Telly Savalas. You have Telly Savalas, Lex Luthor, and if you'd watch the Fast and the Furious series, you'd know that all of the leads are bald in it. Villains, heroes,
that's actually
sidekicks.
True. You know what? I should watch it just for bald solidarity.
You gotta, man. And those men are making millions.
I'll tell you something. Like to Telly Savalas. So I used to smoke cigarettes, which I think I've told you this. But in my 20s, I was a heavy cigarette smoker.
Sure.
Pack a day, 2 packs a day at one point. It was really bad. And when I wanted to quit, I needed something to quench the oral fixation. So I was walking around with lollipops. So I was Kojaking it.
I was going to say that I was like that you mentioned that because I thought Telly Savalas smokes cigarettes really cool in this movie. He has he has like a really cool, like, I don't know what it was like for a scene and a half. I'll go on about that forever, but Telly Savalas, our main villain.
Yeah, Telly Savalas is awesome. So before we get into it, let me just throw this up here. So during this broadcast, you can support our page by sending stars, digital gifts that help us earn money. You come hang out with us, like us on Facebook, join the conversation. Always some crazy conversations going on. And I would say, look, what would it be to give a couple of stars so you don't go to the Baccarat table like, as often as you'd like. So, just send some stars. And Boss Man joining us as always. Thank you, Boss Man. What's up? Good to be here. Good to have you here. Excited to do some deep diving. All right. I just want to get into this movie, Ginny, because this is the movie that I have been waiting to talk about forever. Mm-hmm. This is, I think subconsciously I put the Connery stuff last to build up to this movie. Mm-hmm. Not that it's my favorite, because I've said Goldfinger is my favorite, and that's literally never going to change. Goldfinger is a perfect James Bond movie, in my opinion. But this is a movie that I think people either love or hate.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep,
I used to hate it when I was younger, but I fucking love it now. And I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on it.
Right. I am so not complicated. I just have a lot of like thoughts and just kind of, especially I'm happy that we saved this for last, because I liked having a retrospect of earlier. We started with Craig first, and rolling and like properly rolling backwards, right?
Yeah, just went backward through the franchise.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the way to do it, because I remember I had started my Bond fixation before Daniel Craig ever came into the picture. So I have not seen this movie since watching like that Daniel Craig series. And I used to watch this movie a lot because it was always on. Again, this is like 2003, 2002, like Spike TV, these marathons of classic Bond. And this was just a part of it. And so, and if I watched any documentary, and I certainly did, this was such a topic, and it kind of matters because Telly Savalas and Dame Diana Rigg are in it. So those aren't they're not nothing. They're high class.
I mean, look, this is the movie that got Dame Diana Rigg as a Bond girl, and that is like, for those who are not familiar with like the history of pop culture in the 60s. That's huge, because Dame Diana Rigg was on a little-known show called The Avengers, which was this BBC phenomenon, which Honor Blackman was also on, who was Pussy Galore.
Yep.
But like Diana Rigg was the it girl of the swinging 60s at this point. And so to have her as a Bond girl is huge.
It's kind of like the first Halle Berry of the, or maybe even like since, kind of like, or like you're just a hit. Yeah, that's crazy. And it's just, I kept calling her. Yeah. Emma Peel. I've said that in my notes a few times where I'm like, where's Emma Peel?
Of course. And I'll tell you something. The reason I started liking this, which was like, when I said I hated it as a kid, it was like when I was young, like before, like junior high school, because it was like, oh yeah, everyone hates this one. But in high school, I got super into 60s spy stuff, and I owned all of the Emma Peel season, all of like 2 seasons on VHS of the Avengers, because I was so excited about the Avengers movie that was coming out, which we are going to cover eventually on this show.
Because I love that movie, because the HBO used to show that on repeat, and I love that movie.
I own that movie on DVD, which is, I'm not proud, but
although I haven't seen it in years,
but yeah, so I got obsessed with the Avengers. I was in love with Diana Rigg, obviously, as a teenager. She was gorgeous. And then I rewatched this movie, and I was like, no, this movie's great. What the fuck was wrong with me? And every time I watch it, I'm just like, I find something else to really like about it. And my rewatch this time was really enriched by the fact that I listened to the audiobook. And so I'm going to talk about that later on, because there is some interesting stuff there. But the best part about the audiobook is David Tennant narrates it.
Oh no, I would love to read that. I was going to ask you about something, because I have some questions / things I go, I mean, this must be like very relevant in the book. It must all actually be pretty faithful. It seems like it would be.
This one actually really is. I think the only thing it does is it swaps the scene where he saves her from drowning herself with the casino scene. So in the book, he meets her at the casino. That stuff happens where she makes the bet, he bails her out, they have sex, she leaves, and he there's something about him seeing something in her eyes that made him worry, so he goes after her.
I kind of okay, I like that, but that's a better opening. Now they're going to go into the opening. Yes. It's a better opening.
Right. And so let's jump into the opening, because that's usually where we start, and that this is a good segue for that. So the cold opening is M is like, we're looking for Blofeld. Operation not Grand Slam. What is it? Oh God, I wrote it down. Fuck, I thought I'd remember
Blofeld
this one.
Mission.
But yeah, it's something with a B. Operation Boomtown. No, I don't know.
Where the heck is it?
All right, I'll find it.
My Wikipedia page was open because I was like,
it'll come to me. But anyway, so he's like, where's Bond? No one knows where Bond is. Let me know when Bond is here. And then we smash cut to Bond driving. We don't see his face yet, which I think is cool, because this is the new Bond.
That. I love it.
Oh, the reveal was so good. He's got the cigarette, and you just see his mouth.
He's got a great lower chin and lips, and yeah.
Look, Lazenby is a hot guy.
He is. And I have thoughts, but yes, he is, and he looks great in that silhouette, and he's smoking the cigarette. He's cool as hell, and they are building it. You're right, because it's a new Bond, so they're like owning it.
Yes, so they're really milking it and letting us know that this is an event. And then Emma Peel, Tracy, fucking just blows by him on the highway, and he sees, hot chick blowing by me on the highway, and he guns it after her. Gets to her car. She's out on the beach. He looks out, and she's about to run into the ocean, and he intuits that she's going to kill herself. Again, it makes more sense in the book because he had met her and they had a night
and she
together.
Seems already melancholy. I have and she's a
yes. Yes. And that's the thing, because the woman, how she is at the casino, where she's like, well, people who, when he says something, be careful how you bet. And she's like, people, safety is for people who want to live. So it would have made much more sense that he thought she was going to kill herself, but whatever.
Oh God. And now that you say that makes all the sense, but I'm watching it as a person who knows the ending, and I don't remember the movie in a while, and I'm going to pick up nuances as opposed to a 13-year-old, but going oh my gosh, what a foreshadowing moment, or just maybe her character already knows of her fate. But that even is better if it's she kind of already has it in mind that she's going to kill herself. So yeah, and then that would trigger him and being this girl, gotta get her. That's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it is crazy. And then so he goes to save her. He does save her. And then goons come and put a gun to his head. There's a super cool fight scene where he wields a fucking anchor at someone.
It's the best fight scene ever in a Bond movie till Daniel Craig movies. It's so good. It's so good. It's so beautifully shot. It's dark and he's great. He's so strong.
Yeah, he is. I love when he knocks the guy into the overturned boat, and then it falls on him. I just thought that was okay, that's the end of that one.
This is precursor to Daniel Craig fight scenes. Nothing cheeky about besides that, I guess, but that's not, it's just I don't know, an interesting opening. He's interesting. Right.
Yeah, I don't even think that was cheeky. I think the only cheeky thing about this fight scene is when he turns to the camera and goes, I bet the other guy didn't have to go through this.
But even that's not there. So, he has worse one-liners. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he does. That's just because Bond is breaking the fourth wall. But also it's easy for me to look back growing up with 4 or 5 Bonds and not and then kind of pretend that this wasn't an experiment they were afraid of. This is the first time they've swapped out a Bond. For everyone, Bond was Sean Connery. Yeah. So it's of course they're going to do certain things to try to keep the fan base. So I get that. That's kind of a nod. I'm the same person, but I'm not. We're acknowledging it. We understand, But it's kind of weird.
Again, and that's not because even when I think I watched this movie, I wasn't sure of the order, because that just wasn't readily available I used to think maybe this was not sandwiched in between another Sean Connery movie, or I thought it was after Roger Moore, because I thought Roger Moore was kind of maybe mushed in between some of the Sean Connery movies, and they were just kind of, but no, he's an interesting transition into Roger Moore. because I think there is something a little Roger Moore about him as well. But yeah, that opening I love it. I do love it a lot. I just I do too. Fight scene. And she's there and she looks great and ethereal and like it's gonna, go in the water and you're like, what the hell? But then when I don't know what that transition is like. So then he just sees her at the casino later and is like, oh, let me bail you out. Right. When she bets and that's like, I have no money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
it's a more dramatic meet cute now.
It is it's a more dramatic meet cute that I've saved your life and now this is when we're talking. And he does kind of look for her, like so like he is looking for her and I mean, knowing the character of James Bond, it's like he does have a thing for saving damsels in distress, so that makes sense. But again, like I thought it worked better in the book where like it just makes more sense about why he knew she was going to kill herself. That's very really
dashing.
The only thing.
It's very dashing in the book in my mind. But I also like because like now that you said that, I don't know. There's also something more like intimate about. But this is a very this Bond is very passionate. But it's like intimate that maybe he saw something in her eyes and was like, that's very intuitive. And he's just like some more spy like even to be like, what the like she's gonna do something.
No, I absolutely, and this is a very intimate and sort of passionate Bond, like
I have so many notes about that because I was like, there's some things I really don't like about his Bond, and I think it happens when I don't know, like if it's him being a womanizer and if it's him being kind of like a I don't know, like a badass or like any charisma or like coolness that we have from even Roger Moore Bonds, he doesn't have it, which makes him a little less likable. But then there's like a sincerity, or even with like hitting on other women, I'm like, I don't buy it. I don't want it. I don't buy that you like it. Like, I don't think that that you buy that you want these other women. Like, not because you're like not into women. I just think that it's just like you don't care. You don't care. You're a fighter. You're like you're too stiff for that. You're too much of a soldier. But then he'll have these romantic lines and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Bridgerton. This is so passionate. You were so in love with this like woman. And I'm like, why are you being so gentle? Like what? And then no other Bond, maybe since like Pierce Brosnan has done that. There's a lot of Daniel Craig in him. I got thoughts.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, all right, let's get through just the song and the the title card, and then we'll jump right into Bond because I think that's the meat of this conversation. But so all right, this is I don't know. I would say this is one of my least favorite credit scenes.
My bottom, maybe.
It might be my least favorite.
So I can think of it's just like a hodgepodge. I don't. Yeah. What is it? It's just like
it's
a clip show.
James Bond scrapbook show. Yes,
it's a scrapbook. It is kind of a cut and paste of like girls maybe dancing and then just like real images, like no effort.
No, it's girls maybe dancing in shadow, a martini glass cutout, and just clips from the previous movies. And I guess again, this is their way of saying it's the same person. Stay with us, But it doesn't even use the Bond song. It uses, albeit a beautiful orchestral song. I'm not like taking away from it, but it's like it's such an outlier because the only other Bond movie that doesn't open up with a pop song from the time is the first one, Dr. No.
And that's the first one, so we can't expect that to give us a pop song. That's crazy. I think that threw me off because I was like, and what was the song again? Like I was watching the movie, not doing the research beforehand. I was like, what's the song? It's not the name of the title. But I couldn't think of it originally.
No, we have All the Time in the World.
All the Time in the World, which is like just now. And then I was like, as soon as it played, I was like, oh yes, that's right. And because now I realize all the relevance of it. But I was like, they didn't give me it right away. So I was like a little ticked.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a weird Bond song because it comes at the end. It comes throughout, but then it comes at the end. And he actually, that's I think the last line of the movie is we have all the time in the world, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I agree. It's a lackluster. They weren't really trying very hard on this one. All right, so let's just launch into it. Ginny, start us. You could start us off on our James Bond. What do we think about this one and only George Lazenby run at James Bond?
It's so crazy. And I remember really liking him when I was younger. I think because we didn't have Daniel Craig yet, and I didn't watch Timothy Dalton when I was like 13 because they never showed him, and people were really like, "You don't trust us. You don't like the Timothy Dalton." I was like, "Okay, I guess I don't." And they're not giving him to us, so yeah, it's just Pierce Brosnan and Pierce forever, and Sean Connery. I was like Pierce and Sean Connery, and I watched George Lazenby, and I was like, and then people would kind of put that fight up about that it's not, he's not a great Bond, or he's just but he had some pluses to him, which is that he's athletic and he's like muscular, strong, and handsome. But I was like, his face is a little facial blindness for me, a little too. There's no. At least Roger Moore's got these piercing blue eyes. He's redhead, but he's got there's some character to him. Like Sean Connery, again, unique in all charisma. Yeah, I think I did like him though. I think it was just because he wasn't. I mean, people do. There is the smacking around of the women in it, but I think he is just a little bit more personal. And then he got married at the end of the movie is kind of a big plus. And again, we don't get there's some sort of a level of. Again, I know Pierce Brosnan's very protective of women. His Bond is very. It's protective. It's not. I don't know if there's a genuine like. I enjoy you. I feel like he enjoys the women because I think. At least with Tracy, his Bond is like loving her. Like I was like, you're in love with her. You're like genuinely like enjoying her presence. You're like joking. It's not to like a Vesper level with Daniel Craig. That I get that. I do like that he is. I remember he did the impressions, which I like. He was like full on embracing a new character when he went undercover, which I think is we talk about that. It's like that's a spy. I hate his fashion.
There's a lot of spy shit in this.
A lot of spy shit, but good.
There's a lot of spy shit.
I have a lot of notes about his costumes that I'm like against a lot of his outfits.
He dresses like
my husband, and I love my husband's outfits, and I will pick out my husband's outfits for him. I'm just like not for Bond, not like a sweater with like.
I actually love a lot of his outfits.
Do you like the velvet jacket, the purple?
Yes, I owned a velvet jacket like that because of this movie and Austin Powers. I love the velvet jacket. I loved the puffy shirt. I love the cravat. I fucking love that he wears a kilt in this movie.
I know, but I almost want to be like, not for you, George Lazenby. Give it to Timothy Dalton could wear that in the 80s, and I don't know, and maybe because he's too pretty, but I was like, I think that's like he's like 6'4". You slap a purple coat on that man, and he looks great. George Lazenby's like playing it like I am a soldier, and I'm not here for any. I'm going to do my spy business. His jokes are all of his one-liners are under his breath, and he's in a furry vest. But I'm like, what? What did you say, George Lazenby? And his outfits are like all color, and he's like, and I'm like, what did you say? What did you say? I think that's weird. That kind of throws people off. And no one talks about that? And then some costume designers were like, yes.
I will say this to defend Mr. Lazenby. This was his first acting job.
He's brilliant.
He bluffed his way into this.
He's brilliant. And I say he's brilliant in like a British TV show today. That man's acting is like we would be like, he's our new boy toy of the month. Like we love him. Let's give him like an Adventures audition. I just think in the 60s, like we weren't we needed more drama. We needed like a bigger acting style. I think I like that when I was 13, that he was underplaying it. He was very underplaying it, and that works. Like, I mean, you're romantic too. It's even better. It's sincere.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you said that because there is a sincerity to this Bond, which I really like. I'm cards on the table. I really like this Bond. I actually do find him charming at parts.
I do too.
I like when he's with the women in the Blofeld's sort of the hospital, and he's just like, oh, the work is piling up, but I'll get to it all, you know. And it's this gag about how women keep coming up to him and going, I have to see you tonight, 8:00. I have to see you, 8:30. I mean, there's something charming about that.
It's great.
I love when the goons take him to Tracy's father, Draco, and the one goon's got the knife in him, and he's just cool as a cucumber. He's like, I think we'd have a better time without this. Like, there's just something. He's just always so nonplussed.
Nonplussed.
And he's always
that's
just,
a spy. I think there must be something more.
Exactly.
Actual, like maybe him and Timothy Dalton were actually book accurate Bonds, right?
Yes, I think that I could see that. I could see that.
That's
like
a theory, maybe.
Definitely because the I said this on the show is like as these movies start to take off, the Bond becomes this mythical thing of legend.
Yeah.
Whereas in the book, he's very much a flawed human.
Mm-hmm. He's based off Ian Fleming himself. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Very, very much so. But I like what S&B gives us, and I'm going to say this is a bold statement. I'm going to say right here. I think if given a couple of these movies, enough of these movies where Lazenby maybe could have taken some acting classes and really got to really know the role in the way that Connery did, and Moore did, and Brosnan did, I think I might like him better than Roger Moore.
I bet you're right. And how young was he when he did this too? Was he young? His physical stuff is so good. Was he the youngest before Timothy Dalton? Maybe at the time he might have been. I don't know, but yeah, you're probably right. Again, it's just the sense. And would the movies have taken a different turn? Because there is no Q branch. I think we talked about that. I don't see him as a gadget. He's all fists and charm.
Yes. But I think I was thinking about this a lot. I think the reason we don't get a Q branch is because they were afraid and I'm speculating. I got nothing to except he was 29. I'm sorry. He was 29 when he took this role.
Oh, such a baby. He looks all of 45, but he's a baby.
He's a baby. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I think what happened is because they were resetting things and they were giving a new Bond. My bet is they went, you know what? Let's not deviate from the book as much as we've been doing. Let's give it a more sort of like the first one. If we're resetting this, let's give it the feel of the first one. I think, which is why we don't get the song at the front. We don't get Desmond Llewellyn in his cue because
he wasn't in the first one, right?
He wasn't in the first one. And I think this one does have a lot of sensibilities that Dr. No has, because it is really, as crazy as Blofeld's plot is, and we'll get into it, it's definitely reined back from some of the ones we've seen in the Connery run in the last 2 or 3. I mean, it's much more saner than Blofeld's plot in the last one.
Yes, 100%. I was like, all of this seemed so rational to me, and I love it when they go to the villain and you talk about that too, where they're just like, and you're gonna do people are sussing out the plan. It's not like out of nowhere where they're like, there's no way you can melt our polar ice caps and quickly in 2 days. It's very like, and he's kind of like, oh really? Well, they would do, send us an antidote, and he's kind of got everything thought out, or he's definitely steps ahead. It's so rational there, and then it's just more accessible in this more. But all of it, it's something is, it's just his outfits are a little out of place for me. Because I said? When he was in his costume, he was wearing glasses and a hat, and he was doing his, he put on this. He's kind of great acting there. Where he puts on a different voice. So I was like, oh my gosh, no, he's putting on an affectation, and he's more posh. I thought he looked amazing, and I was like, oh, you should just be you should be, looking like a professor in this sort of way. And he's great like that. I love him in the, keeping up appearances.
And you're right. Like when he becomes Sir Hilary, he puts on the voice, and there is that scene where you see him mimicking the real Sir Hilary in the office when they're talking, which I thought was cool. It's like, I mean, I've always said I really dig when James Bond does spy stuff, and we get a lot of spy stuff in this. So like we get
heavy.
him pretending to be someone else. We get him like clandestinely breaking into someone's office and get like pretty much like hacking their safe and copying their files and getting out, and he doesn't get caught like James Bond normally has been doing.
He's not a screw up. Yeah, we always say he's like you're really, and that's just like for plot reasons, of course, but at least you know,
of course,
successful in this movie.
Right? Yeah. I mean, when he does spy shit, it pretty much works. I mean, his cover does get blown. And it's actually, this is exactly how it happens. It's actually even worse in the book, because in the book, the agent that they catch, like goes like outs Bond almost, like, hey, you know me, you tell them I'm okay. Tell them, you know, we work together, whatever. And yeah, and he's like, I don't know this guy, but that's what puts it in Blofeld's head, and Blofeld starts to look into it. In this, there is a bit of that, but also Bond kind of fucks up, gives some wrong information.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, it can't be perfect 100% of the time. There's a lot of pressure going on.
No, not at all. But I love that the fact that he's doing successful spy stuff.
Successful. Gosh, what did I said? I kind of also wrote he might be, especially towards maybe a little early towards the end, he might be a perfect mix of all the Bonds. I think again, this is me watching a post Craig universe where there's a sensitivity. There's like I don't know, like a human, maybe human is the word I'm looking for. Like, because even Timothy Dalton, who I love to pieces and who is sweet, can be sweet with his girls, and Pierce is sweet. A genuine, like, I don't know, like a humanness. I don't know. There's like, just that he's not a cartoon character. He's not a cartoon character. His outfits might be cartoon, but he's not. So I think that's kind of it. And just, you know, he's athletic like Timothy Dalton. He's still got that 60s era. He's got the quips of Sean Connery, but he's a little like costumey. He's not afraid to go a little peacock like Roger Moore.
Peacock.
And he's surrounded with a bunch of women at a table. So I think there's elements of maybe every Bond in him, which might just throw people off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. He does have these different elements. Like, again, I wish I could just peek my head into the alternate universe where Lazenby did like 4 of these at least, you know, just to see what they would have been like. Like, what would Diamonds of Forever Lazenby look like?
Yes. Yeah. Ooh. That's got to exist.
Right? Because like, you know, I think the reason we go back to the craziness of Bond that we got from You Only Live Twice, I'm willing to bet it's a combination of A, this movie did not do as well as the previous ones at the box office because of the change of Bond, and B, they re-get Sean Connery in the role, so they're like, oh, now we're just let's just go back to what it was, because the reboot we tried didn't work. So I'm kind of curious, like, do we get a more serious, less cartoonish Bond going forward if Lazenby sticks with the role for a couple of movies?
Yeah. Ugh. A little less. Oof. That's good. That's like that's a butterfly effect.
Right. Just something to think about. All right. I one other thing I want to say about this James Bond, and then I'm good, and you can wrap up your thoughts.
Sure.
I hate that he casually slaps Tracy around, even though he thinks she's an enemy.
Oh, right. I was oh God, no, go. Yeah. Say it. That feels false. Doesn't that feel false to you? Like his Bond wouldn't do that in a way.
Yes, it's because it's really the only moment of misogyny in this movie.
Her father hits her too. He cold cocks her.
Oh, I meant from James Bond. I'm sorry, I meant from James Bond.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Well, I mean, again, I don't remember if they hit her in the book, to be honest with you. But this kind of scene reminds me, like, are they trying to do Taming of the true in the James Bond universe.
And it's so stupid because she still is like she doesn't become more submissive to him. She kind of has her own agenda, and they are just sort of equals, and he likes her as a, like, if you just take that out, it was so what did she even say to him that like I thought it looked like he almost more grabbed her hand, but her face like went that way. And I was like, I didn't see him raise his hand. It seemed like a smack and post, but it seemed like he just sort of grabbed her wrist to be like, no, you stay with me. But her face went. I didn't, but his hand was down here. Was the other one hit her? I watched it twice. He definitely hits her because she says it, or it is very clear that he has smacked her twice in that scene. But the first time it looked like, I was so confused. I was like, it looked like a bad stage slap where he didn't do it and she got her cue. And I was like, what the?
But he definitely hits her the second time.
He definitely hits her. I think he hits her twice. You're right. Just it was a weird looking thing, and it didn't seem red false. Yeah, we didn't need it.
Yeah.
They were
the
so
whole thing with
together.
Who do you work for? And and him roughing her up like that. Like, I don't.
Initially, they sleep together anyway. So why?
Right. Yeah, it was unnecessary. I hated that moment. But I love their moments afterward. Like, so like, Draco, her father, pretty much kidnaps Bond, which I think is badass, just to have a drink with him so he can talk about his daughter. And he pretty much says to Bond, like, I will help you find Blofeld if you marry my daughter. And
he says it like, I think he says it like worse than that. He's like, she needs a man to like throw her down, and like, I was like, what in the world?
Like, I want you to fuck my daughter, Bond.
I know. It was oh gosh, that dad. Don't get me started on Drago.
No, Drago's terrible. He's terrible.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, and then Bond's like, I won't marry her. But like, yeah, you help me get Blofeld and let's work because he gets, what are they like, Bond? We're taking you off the Blofeld mission. And he's like, yes, no.
Yeah, that's right. We should have said that up front, right? So M pretty much shit cans Bond on the Blofeld. It's like, you've been doing this for 2 years, 007. You haven't gotten anything. And there's this whole thing where 007's like, Moneypenny, take dictation. I resign immediately. And then he gets called into M's office, and M says, request granted. And Bond, like, is all hurt. He comes out, he's like, he didn't even care. I've been doing it for years. He didn't even care. And Moneypenny's like, read it, you idiot. And he opens it up, and it's like 2 weeks vacation. She's like, you didn't really want to resign. And he's like, Moneypenny, what would I do without you? And then he leaves, and then M is like, Moneypenny, what would I do without you?
And everybody, we need Moneypenny. She is the most important character in the Bond universe.
She's a linchpin.
I love it. What do you say? We're just like, what would I do without you? And she's like, that's your problem. You don't do anything with me. And I was like, oh, you're lying.
Their flirtation is crazy in this.
Oh God, they are like, and again, if the movies had gone on, she would have been like we could have eased into a rebound. She's a little older than, they're probably like the same age.
It doesn't matter. Movie magic.
I was like, they could have like maybe gotten together or something in the next movie, the third movie. But yeah, that's a great. So he is working with sort of a villain, a crime boss.
Yeah, because Draco's a crime boss. But so so I love that, like, Draco sets this thing up, and I'm telling this big story to get to what I think is my favorite moment that they have together. And she comes in, and they're at dinner, and she knows the fucking score. She's like, all right, Dad. So, I'm badly paraphrasing because the writing is much better and she's way more clever. But she's pretty much like, I know the deal. You're trying to marry me off to this guy. You promised him information. Give him the information, or I will never speak to you again.
Yeah.
And Draco tells it to him, and she's like, all right, now you got what you want. You don't have to see me. You don't have to pretend you want to talk to me. And she leaves. And Bond does kind of like her. Like, that's clear. Like, there is something there. And he follows her. And when he turns her around, and like, she's bawling.
Yeah.
And he goes, he's genuinely like, I'm sorry. And he says something like, good moments should be shared between friends or lovers and stuff like that. Like, and it's this beautiful symbolic way of like, I need the information, but I do like you. This isn't just about the information. And then after that, there's a whole montage of them horseback riding and getting to know each other. And it's like, That is my favorite Bond moment.
Mm-hmm. He's so human. And again, it's not that even Daniel Craig doesn't get that. Like, there's always some sort of risk, or it's like a level of danger that they trauma bonding between him and his Bond girl. Not that. I mean, not that. I mean, besides him saving her, which was just kind of her own angst and life. But yeah, they're like person. And then later they're just like being sweet, not even like in a, oh, you're naughty kind of, a little bit of naughtiness, but mostly just like, I don't know, this man is looking at her like with love in his eyes. And maybe that's an untrained actor thing. That's kind of great and natural. And again, we'd be eating that up today on like CW network and like HBO Max.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, I fucking adore the fact that one of the only two Bond girls, but the first Bond girl to steal 007's heart was Dame Diana Rigg.
Yes. And all of the, and this is also how beautiful and refreshing, not to say nothing of this gorgeous previous Bond girls, even Ursula Andress, who I is kind of a top one for me. They're all dubbed, and they all have the same woman who is dubbing their voice. Like, it is this German actress who is American dubbing just any French girl's actor, voice. But Dame Diana Rigg is this like classically Shakespearean trained actress who is just like, I don't know, like they are equals there than that, because she is just responding. And even if I was like, I missed her in the movie because every time you have her, she's crushing it.
She's not in the movie for a big chunk in the middle. But I agree. Let's talk about the Bond girl, like Dame Diana Rigg, because I think like this is possibly I'm not going to count Pussy Galore, because Pussy Galore starts off as a bad guy. Yeah. But I think this is the first Bond girl that is on equal footing with Bond. Like, they are equals.
Oh, 100%. And she not. I always thought she kind of would not turn. I wasn't. I don't remember her arc, but I was like, because Diana Rigg is so clever and brilliant. I was like, she could have turned evil, right? Or like, that's just kind of because all of these good Bond girls are. I hate to say, like, a little dopey or a little ditzy, a little innocent or very childlike.
Innocent,
which is not cool. Innocent, not dopey. That's bad. So Mary Goodnight's a little ditzy.
Innocent, naive, childlike. I think
very naive, which is like also a little infantile, which is not great. But why can't we just have a good girl who is just, not sad? Not that that's a trait, but she's brilliant, funny, witty, very very charismatic, right. And she's gorgeous, but she's not like sexualized. She's just kind of like
that's.
I don't see her in a bikini.
She's not.
Wait,
you don't see her like half naked in a bikini.
No, she looks great in a dress. She's stunning.
Gorgeous. Yeah, she is. Classy. She's a classy James Bond.
Very classy. Oh, and I just and like, of course you'd want her. And even Telly Savalas, the villain, is like, I forgot that he's like kind of hitting on her, and I was like, they have great chemistry. I was like, they're like giving it, and I was like, these two don't like. You could just easily like just have they could have had like, I don't know, like their own subplot. There was only like a scene of them. I was like, with these two amazing, who were in the television Hall of Fame of actors.
I'm there for it.
But she was like, that's a testament too, that she's just chemistry with everybody and like own it. She gets a fight scene. I loved her fight scene. It was very natural, very realistic. It wasn't like her Emma Peel high kicks in a cat suit, but she just pushed. She's like using the elements around her. That's not her.
Yeah, no, she's great. I'm gonna put cards on the table. This is my favorite Bond girl. Like, this is number one. I don't think it gets any better than this. I love everything about this Bond girl because she's the equal to Bond, but equal without, like, I think it's like awesome when we get in the future Michelle Yeoh, who is his equal as a spy. But like, Tracy's not a spy. She's his equal as a person outside of the profession, which I think is very interesting, because Agreed. It's easy to be someone's equal if you're just as good as them as the job, at the same job that you have. But like, she is a very different character and person than James, but still, and a woman in the 60s, but still has the agency and the presence to have the equality with him. And I think that is something we don't see again.
That's like, and not for a while, and just because we said, like, the feminism isn't just that you can, I mean, she does have a fight scene. It's like a purely defense, though. The guy's like choking her and she's like, get off me, let me just also then give it to you and then some. But she is, it's not that she's just like, oh, I'm also a spy, I'm also a badass, and let's, come on, let's show it how it's done, boys, kind of feminism. It's just like, the feminism is that what's a great line that he's like, I could make you does he say I can make you a countess? And she's like, I'm already a countess.
Yes, yes.
Which is kind of great. And I was like, yeah, it's just that she's a person, she's a character, she's very fleshed out, and they like each other for each other. And she's just equally as witty as him, and doesn't have to be in a bikini, doesn't have to be, she does have to be rescued, but and she doesn't like that her father's trying to pawn her off, and
And I would say she doesn't have to be rescued because she doesn't want to be rescued. Like, all the perils she, like, at first anyway, where he's like, she does herself. She tries to kill herself. She makes the bet knowing she can't pay for it. Yeah. She's, so it's like she's not a damsel in distress where he has to rescue her from someone else. It's more like, I kind of got to save her from herself. And that's very different. You know what I'm saying? Because that gives her more agency.
I used to watch the Avengers with my dad, and I think I watched kind of simultaneously with this, or then later I was like, oh, she's actually a Bond girl from the 60s that I know. And I think I was mad watching this movie when I was like 13, going like, well, why isn't she kicking butt? Because she is Emma Peel. Like, why isn't she doing the combat? And it's like, that's not the character. And why should it be? Why can't she just be like,
right?
It's even better. There's something very mature about that. It's a very mature character.
No, absolutely, because I think it's easy to go, okay, feminism, as you said, it's about kicking butt, but it's not always about kicking butt. Sometimes it's just being allowed to be a flawed character with agency and have your character hinge on something other than your sexuality or your gender. And I think that is the deal with her. Like, yeah, it fits. There is a lot into it because she's the daughter and this and that, but and the marriage and the stuff. But like, when it comes down to it, she's not damaged because she's a woman. She's damaged because of the trauma of her childhood, which they kind of touch on lightly in the movie and they talk more about in the book. But yeah, I think it's just super interesting. And even with her views on sexuality, like, Bond never says, I'm bailing you out and I expect sex. Like, he bails her out and she comes to him and puts the key in his hand and says, I always pay my debts, come around. So she's the one who initiates that. We can't hear you, Ginny. I think your audio went out.
Turn off a tablet.
Oh, okay. No worries. I just wasn't sure if you knew, but yeah. So I just think that's interesting, like, because he even says, and again, this is why I didn't like when he's beating her up and slapping her around, because this is not the misogynistic Sean Connery Bond of a girl saying no and him saying, well, I'll get you fired then, pin you down. Like, he says, I don't want anything from you. I just wanted to help you. I'll talk to me if you want. And she's like, no, we're going to fuck because I owe you 10,000 francs. And it's like, that dynamic is like interesting.
Agreed. I was like, I forgot about that again, because it's just, and they get off to it right away. But there's already connection there. It's not just like, oh, pretty girl. I have a problem with the girl of all the women, all the allergy women. I'll call them the allergy women team. He'll call them the other Bond girls in a way, where he kind of just hooks up with one of them. But that's she kind of comes on to him and he's like, let's get to it. And I'll get the information out of you. Right. But not with them because they know each other.
That writes her room number in lipstick on his fucking inner thigh.
He's like, what is this?
Sign of interruption.
No, I was like, because I saw that, I was like, what that is such not a joke. It's just so funny. All of the and more of them keep coming in. It's kind of hilarious. I think it's just funny.
It's hysterical.
And also, what is okay?
Yeah,
never mind. We could go
no,
into that.
go ahead,
She's fabulous. I was like, because the women, I have so many, not so many notes about that. Just I have questions because you've also read the books.
Well, it's very similar. Like they're all there thinking they're getting their allergies done. I don't remember if they said it in the movie, but the one who has an allergy to chicken, like her father's a chicken magnate, like, and they've made their money off of selling chickens.
Chicken conglomerate.
But yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Like I don't remember. I don't think he sleeps with them all in the book. I don't remember, to be honest, because I listened to it like 6 months ago or 5 months ago, or whenever we were doing the show. What is the deal with
them going like? What do they say? They're like, we didn't think you were into women. I say it twice. I was like, what are you?
Oh,
is that they
no,
think
because
he's gay? Or he says
because he drops a line when they're at dinner. Yeah, he does. He says something like, I'm not really into women. Like he alludes to the fact that he's gay. And I think that's part of the joke is he sleeps with each of them, not because he's Master Machismo Bond, but because he does this twice. We see him do it twice. Like, I'm not usually into women, but you're different.
For you, what the hell? That's like that's like a theater kid. The girls discover one of the guys is straight, and they're like, "Let's all talk." So weird.
That's exactly it.
Like, oh, you're not gay? Oh, we all like we're gay. Oh, whatever.
We thought, all right. You want to have sex with us all?
God.
But I think they were also in the clinic for a while. I mean, I don't know.
And they're cooped up.
Yeah.
And why women? Because he's like, I know what his purpose is that he just, is it just the power thing? Because I was like, that's a worse, that's like, I hate that you're just hypnotizing women and using them as your, I don't know. It's like worse than Goldfinger in a way. Or
I honestly, I think it's just probably because it's a misogyny thing. Like they're easier to control or whatever. Or no one's gonna see it coming. Like these wilting flowers, heiresses. Mm-hmm, no one's gonna suspect that they're poisoning. Which like his plan. Can we talk about his plan for a second?
Yes.
This is one of the craziest fucking plans, but I love it because it's like it's real crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you only have to wave a hand 3 times as opposed to like you only live twice, where like I got arthritis.
Arthritis.
But the plan is, and this is pretty much what it is in the book too. Blofeld has opened up a hospital where he treats rich heiresses to get rid of their weird allergies.
Mm-hmm. Relatable. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And part of his plan is to prove that he is part of he is a count in the Duchamp line.
Right.
Who have no earlobes.
Yeah. I was like, that's a very book thing. That's a very James Bond thing. Where he's like, clearly you can see they have no earlobes. It's like, why is that relevant? Yeah. It's like the Habsburg chin.
Right.
It's like inbreed. It's a product of inbreeding.
It's the Habsburg chin or the hawk nose of the Medici. Was that it?
Right.
Which I love that, and that's how Bond gets his in, because he goes undercover as the genealogist. But so like Blofeld's plan is to get himself legitimacy as a count while hypnotizing these women to be sleeper cell terrorists to secretly activate a terrorist plot that would pretty much, I mean, boiled down, it would destroy the food supply of England.
You could hold, everyone ransom, right? Yeah. But we will, we got your food, and then, and it's like almost like spreading, not spreading the disease, but like.
Well, he says because he does the thing where he's like, I'm gonna call them and ask them for $1 million. Because it's very much where Austin Powers gets
the antidote, from.
Yeah, I have the antidote. But so his whole thing is like he caused, as an experiment, he caused hoof and mouth disease that affected the beef supply.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole plan, because Bond's like, they're not going to believe you. And his whole plan is to go, well, I'm going to convince them that I actually did this hoof and mouth disease thing, which I really did do a couple months ago. And then I'm going to give them a demonstration. It's like, okay, man. It's like...
taking it one step up. I thought it was a pretty great plan. I was like, and it was clear to me. Smooth. And it's him. And it's Telly Savalas's Blofeld.
Which I loved. What do you think about this? Because this is our second incarnation of Blofeld. Yeah. We'll see the third one the next time we do the next episode. What did you think about this one?
I love Telly Savalas. I think I say he looks like the animated version of Lex Luthor. And was that always on purpose? Did they do that on purpose? Like the Superman TV show, animated show, was like, he was a bald, kind of big, like big shot. And they're like, Telly, because it looks like it's his brow, it's his nose, it's his, I don't know. It's like the tan. Maybe I'm wrong. I couldn't get that out of my mind. And he's so cool. He's just in a turtleneck walking around being like, let's have a cigarette. Let's have a drink.
Smokes in such a weird way.
Yes. We don't have long boardroom tables at my conglomerate. We're all just skiing, hanging out, everyone. I love that.
I love the moment he has when he still thinks, or maybe he doesn't at this point. Maybe he knows the truth, but when Bond as Sir Hillary rather says, "Oh, I think you're going down on the lift. I think I'm gonna take the afternoon off and go down." And Blofeld's like, "The afternoon? You took the morning off." He's like, "Yeah, well, I'll come and show you what I've been doing. It's been a lot of work." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm also paying you a lot of money." And Bond is like, "Well, if you're gonna play it that way," and Telly Savalas like, "Yeah, I'm gonna play it that way," and he just turns around and walks away. It's such a great Telly Savalas moment.
He is so cool. I was like, I don't know when did he become when did he get Kojak? 70s, right? This is just 70s, before the 70s. So just got the big movie? So pre his Twilight Zone episode or post Twilight Zone episode, Telly Savalas.
What Twilight Zone episode was he in?
The Living Doll. With Talking Tina and I'm Going to Kill You, and he's like the stepdad. Such a good episode, and he's so good in it. I always think about that too.
I actually watching this, I realized I'd never seen an episode of Kojak, and I kind of want to you know how I did a couple years ago. I did the Columbo deep dive.
Oh God, I think I might
do a Kojak.
I could imagine there's nothing more 70s. That's like a White Shaft, kind of, isn't it? Like he's just like a detective.
I mean, yeah, with a lollipop.
And he's cool as hell. You got it.
Yeah, I love this. I love Telly Savalas' Blofeld. Like, I love Donald Pleasance's Blofeld. I used to think Donald Pleasance was my favorite.
He might be.
But they're at least tied. They're very different takes.
It's almost just like different characters. And that's the other thing. I think I also used to think that they were different. They just happen to be bald, which is just...
to be honest with you, because they screwed up the chronology, they should have been. Because if you look at the chronology of these movies, like, how the fuck did Blofeld not recognize the guy who blew up his base in Japan?
Are we playing it that way though? Are we doing it like in order? Like, is this suit? Like, does this follow suit?
I mean, it not in the movies. In the book, it does, because in the book, this comes and then there's You Only Live Twice, and You Only Live Twice has nothing to do with the movie. It's all about him trying to get revenge on Blofeld for killing his wife. But that's they shot them out of order. So and they didn't again. They did not veer from the book very much on this one, and so I think they kind of went like, just who's gonna remember? I mean, I don't know what they. I mean, because we're not creating franchises in the '60s consciously, so you know.
They won't remember. Well, it's kind of not how much that's not wrong. I love Telly Savalas. Yeah, I like Telly Savalas a lot.
Do you think he's a better Blofeld, or do you still like Donald Pleasance, or are you like me, like you can't decide?
I kind of can't decide. Again, they just feel like very different characters. But what is that like? That's like a Joker. It's just like a different interpretation of the Joker almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or like, gosh, I don't know. Yeah, I just like it. I just like how cool he is, and I feel like we hadn't had a cool young guy who wasn't in a stuffy suit and just like I like, and it seemed practical. It seemed like an Elon Musk thing to do. Or I'm watching Succession, like the Alexander Skarsgård character in current season of Succession, kind of like hip and cool and and yeah, and just yeah, I don't know. His accent was awesome too. He doesn't sound like Telly Savalas. He kind of has a cool affectation. I said I wrote I love his voice. I love his accent.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be German, and he speaks some German in this. Which
Does
I
he?
think
But
is cool.
it sounds like he's American, which I like. You know, I like an American villain to a Bond, but it just had a little bit of a little posh. He sounded a little posh.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. There really isn't a
lot of
sidekick.
No,
there's
no sidekick. A lot of skiing. So much action.
But there's no like first thug that we don't get like a Teehee.
No henchman.
The
Frau, what's her name? Which is another Austin
Blunt.
Powers, but Frau Blunt is kind of the henchman.
Yeah. She's like, I don't know. I've seen Odd Job at this point.
I'm not impressed by your little 50-year-old redheaded German. I'm not either.
No, I mean even what's her face from from Russia with Love.
Yes.
Even she's scarier.
No. And that you kind of can't top that. Yeah, she was just like a house mother for all these women, and she's like, "Come on, girls, Christmas." It's a Christmas movie too. We talk about that.
It is a Christmas movie. It's crazy.
Christmas jokes. This and World is Not Enough.
That's right. That is
also the world is not. Oh, speaking of that, the motto.
Please go. Yep, I was.
That was just the thing where they were talking about. Was he going undercover? That is his house motto. No, it's not his house motto.
I think that is his house motto.
He was showing off.
With which he. Yeah, like I think the pretense with which he met the genealogist was, I want this checked out, and then it was like, okay, now that we have this meeting, this is really what the meeting's about. I'm
going to take over you. But I was like, I just caught my ear. What else did I say about? I had another note about that. Yeah, no, that was just. I have so many notes about this movie. Yeah. The world family motto. The world.
Do you want to just go through our remaining notes? Because I think we hit all the points we usually hit, right?
Sure, but we should go to the end. I mean, just like what the big,
Oh yeah, yep. You're right.
Well, big ski scene, and he's going to send the women out to spread disease and famine or whatever, and be the sleeper cell agents. And he runs into Tracy Emma Peel at like the Christmas thing during like a getaway, and they're just they team up for a bit, and
which is awesome because again, like she's helping him.
I know. I was so happy. I was like genuinely.
Like, they're equals.
She? Yes, and then they have like a big scene, and she kind of gets kidnapped, and Telly Savalas is like, "We should just get together," and she's like, "No," and then combat fighting. The dad, he gets her dad involved. They just sort of dismantle the. They don't blow up. They blow it up. They don't blow up his thing, do they? There's so much.
I don't think so. I think they just stop it.
I think they just stop it because, again, they get away. Him and his little German henchwoman, Telly Savalas, and the German henchwoman get away.
Who in the book? That's his wife.
And I love. There's a line about he gets in the snow when he does everything. There's a puppy, the big Saint Bernard. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, go get that brandy, 5-star Hennessy, of course.
Yep.
And and then him and like Emma Peel, or like where they were earlier, they just kind of got stranded in a cabin in the snow, which was awesome. And they were just having like a full rom-com scene where he's like, "I'm in love with you." And I have notes about just like, I'll just read them to you now. What does he say? Gosh, that was before. Oh my gosh. Also the scene where sorry, my kid's right here.
No, it's okay.
And the skier goes into the whatever that thing was. That's something that gets.
Right.
I was like shocked. I was like, I had to rewind that because I was like, oh my gosh, blood just came out of the snow.
Right, like the snow blower, right, or whatever that is.
And he has a line that's like, he had guts.
Oh, yeah.
So bad.
There's a lot of skiing in this movie, and like there's a lot of skiing hijinks. There's that one where he's going down, and then he ducks, and as the guy's coming up and going off the cliff, he whacks the bottom of his skis and he just flips over into his death. It's a lot of skiing hijinks.
You say hijinks. I say murder. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Stop hitting Dame Diana Rigg.
Yeah, but
yeah.
By the way, since we're talking about Dame Diana Rigg really quickly, so weird because I watched this today, but the show I've been binge watching for the first time, I've never seen it before, is Game of Thrones. And Dame Diana Rigg is on this show, and I am so happy that like Dame Diana Rigg in her late 80s, early 90s, because I know that like because she just died recently and she was like in her mid 90s, so she must have been around that age when she did this.
Yeah,
she literally was like, fuck you, I'm gonna come out here, I'm gonna be charming, I'm gonna give an awesome performance, and that's it. Dame Diana, and I'm winning
Rigg, and I'm winning Emmys into my 90s.
Did she win an Emmy for that?
It was like there was a cameo. There's an award for like smaller parts, and it's like perfect. And of course she won it. She's like nominated twice, and I was like, yeah,
fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that. And she's in my favorite Muppet movie, The Great Muppet Caper.
She is, and that is also one of my favorite. Her and Charles Grodin.
They caught me red-handed. Charles Grodin, yes. When he's in love with Miss Piggy, it's such a weird fucking
it's plot so good. Nothing makes me happier than when you have to play against a puppet and you have to play full on in love with them, and he does.
He does. Everyone in that movie is so good because they're all so convincing.
Yes. Oh, and it's beautiful. It's in London. It's fun. Yes. No, she's awesome, and she's awesome, and that's of course Natalie Dormer would be her child. Like, yeah.
Of course.
She's so good. I just said, yeah, gosh. And then there's the marriage. Then they're like, let's get married and let's have a full 60s wedding.
Which I think is awesome. Like, because it's the first time we see Bond getting married. The first time we see him, like, wanting to commit, right? Like, even with Vespa, you know, yeah, he would have, and he was in love with her. But, like, this is him, like, really all in on a mature level.
Yeah, and again, it's just like that. He was just like, what did he say? I don't know. It's just she's given equal. When we say also equal, I think I also like when you're just equally giving the charm and the love back to him. And she has all the depth because she's also from the beginning, and it's just all foreshadowing, right? She's so melancholy. Like, what did she even say at the wedding? That was, or just. Like she's always doomed, like before him, where she's like, "Yep, you've given me a life. That's what I like." And she's so young, and it's like, and she's like, "You finally have given me a future. Give me the one thing I've wanted." And she says it not like, "And I love you so much, and we're just gonna be so happy." It's just like, and it's the one thing I've always wanted, isn't it? Like a future. But I'm like, you don't believe? There's almost something that's like you don't believe that, and you know, of course, they're just driving on the road and their car is decked out in flowers, and they make a joke about that. He's like, "Oh, I forgot to get you flowers." They pull over, gets out of the car, goes to get her flowers, and Blofeld and his Frau are in the car and just drive by. I hate that. I hate that it's just, is that in the book? Yes. I guess they're just like, take him out. Not like,
I mean, pretty much. Yeah. It's pretty much the same thing.
So it's just, and it's she's shot, and he's like, and he kind of gets like, he's like, "Oh, that was Blofeld. Oh gosh, but whatever." And then you just see him like get in the car, and she's been shot
because he doesn't realize what happened. He's kind of like, "Oh, this is a James Bond movie. Everything's fine."
And it's like, it's a horrible shot too. She has a bullet in the head, and there is blood on her face. It's kind of placed nicely where you don't see the hole, but it's like it's a crazy shot, and then he just gets in the car, double takes, and then like grabs her. She falls. It's just such a such a dark scene and such a really grounded
and he's
movie.
Holding her,
and
he says it's like the last line of the movie, like, which is this the song, right? No, we have all the time in the world, and it's like it's the most vulnerable we will ever see James Bond.
I think I'm shocked because it's
never going to go this depth again.
Ever until maybe Daniel Craig, but even Daniel Craig, there's something just like simple about it where he's crying. These are really natural tears. He's so natural, and I always read. I think that he is kind of like maybe I'll place him above Roger Moore, is because that actor he said apparently he had the book in his lap when her body was in his lap during this take. So when he looked up at the officer, his tears were just because he read the last passage in the book. And that's why, and he was just kind of like, okay, that's my line. Look at her. And he's genuinely crying. I saw a documentary about that, and I was like, that's kind of top.
Oh,
because he cared about
cool.
it, I think. And I was like, that's so great. My memory, that has been a while since I saw the documentary, but I was like, and that's so sad. It's so sad. And it just is so sad. And that's how you end it. He's crying. He's crying.
Yeah. No, it's the only down ending I think we get in one of these movies. Like, this is such an outlier of the Bond franchise for so many reasons. And I think it gets maligned because of that. But I think this is, I think I would put this at least top 10 of my favorite Bond movies.
Now I think after having seen it, yeah, the good outweighs any negative stuff I had about. But I always liked it when I was younger. I think it was just it's just kind of less craziness. It was so, again, something just grounded about it. Yeah, Connery couldn't do this last scene. He's like, he grabs her hand, he kisses her ring. It's so gentle, it's so tender. I'm like, and I'm shocked. It's like a modern sensibility of like tenderness that I don't know.
Right, which is shocking for the 60s / 70s because it was 69, but also shocking for a movie that has him slapping her around like he's a modern northern man, like bang bang. But then we have him here, and it's this tenderness that we've never seen in this character. Like, I would say even in Craig, like Craig is damaged, and Craig has some sad scenes, and you can tell that Craig's Bond is capable of love, but Craig's Bond is not capable of this vulnerability.
Agreed.
Craig takes the hurt and immediately goes cold and like, okay, now I've got to fucking fuck something up.
Yeah.
Whereas this Bond is like, I'm gonna sit with my grief for a moment.
Or I'm not registering it yet. I'm still happily married in my honeymoon state in my mind.
Right.
And
right.
Oof.
And that's the line, right? We've got all the time in the world. That's him bargaining, right? It's not like with Vespa where it's like, I'm cold now. It's like, no, this can't be happening. No, we've had a plan. I was out of this. This was like, and that's, again, like, it's something that we've never seen in Bond that I don't know. I think maybe it's this part of it is why some people don't like it, because I don't know. Some people like a harder Bond. I kind of like the more humane Bond. Maybe it's why I like it now and I didn't as a kid, but I like the more humane Bonds.
I think so, yeah. And we have yet to see it again. Or again, we have elements of every Bond now that has kind of stemmed from that. Yeah. I have so many notes. I think this is my most notes, just detailed notes. And it's just pretty cool and great. And
yeah, me too. Yeah. My notes are, I'll go through them real quick. Bacharach. We're back to the basics. There is Bond knows caviar, and there's that awesome scene which is very, very, very book oriented. I don't think it happens in the book, but I think I've spoken about like how in the book he is obsessed with describing food.
Right.
So like the fact that Bond like kills someone, not kills, he incapacitates the person who's waiting in Tracy's room, and then sees the caviar he ordered, stops, tastes it, and then he like says exactly what region it's from, what year it is. I'm like, holy shit, this Bond knows caviar?
Cultured man.
It's Operation Bedlam. I found my note. Operation Bedlam is what it was called. There's bullfighting in this movie.
There is bullfighting. That's just casual bullfighting.
just casual bullfighting. Bullfighting is one of those things I have to admit, like, I don't like to see anything in pain. But because of Hemingway, I would go to a bullfight if given the opportunity. I would hate it, and I would hate myself for doing it because it's so fucking cruel and inhuman, and it's like harkens back to like the Roman Colosseum, but for animals. Well, really? They did for animals too there, but like, I don't know, man. I'm a big Hemingway fan. He writes so poetic about it.
You'd be like, I have to feel what you felt. I have to know what you know.
I would just sit there, go drinking, going like, Hemingway, you're terrible. You're a monster.
Why you did this? Hemingway would have wanted it this way. You're drinking.
Hemingway he's spitting up at me from hell. Let's see what other notes do I have. Bond. All right, this is my favorite note that I took. It's gonna be the last one I share. Bond steals the centerfold from Grumbold's office, the guy that he breaks in, and he does spy shit for, and he like breaks into his safe, and he makes the copies of all his documents. You see him while he's waiting for the encryptor to break open the safe. He's reading like a magazine, and when he's walking down the hall, passing the doctor, he's opening up what's obviously a Playboy centerfold, going, "Yes."
Fun.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I love the Bond steals the centerfold.
A little bit of, he doesn't know when. He's a spy. That's a spy move. You don't know when you're going to meet a lady. It's a long, no,
hey, because this Bond doesn't take that stuff for granted. He's a sex addict who doesn't know he's about to go to a resort with 8 women who are all going to have sex with him within a half an hour of each other.
What are the odds?
You think he's sneaking in a shower between each of those?
I'd hope so. I feel like you're in a resort. You should. What if you didn't name him? No time.
You got to build in that shower time. 8 women? That's a lot of sweat. that's a lot of
perfume. A lot of disease.
Yeah, a lot of
rinse. Yes, I hope he does. I think this Bond would. I think he would. I'm going to say yes. I think I think he would.
I hope he would at least shower between every 2. Like, I don't think that's cool, but like, I don't know. I'm just saying it's the 60s.
Might not be time.
I gotta be culturally understanding.
And he's caught in like a hard place. You know what I mean? He's caught in there's just no time. The volume of women.
But he set the time. He could have said 8:45 instead of 8:30. Give himself 15 minutes to shower.
What if he liked one more than the other? What if there was just something, he must be exhausted. Like recovery time alone.
Yeah, I mean,
don't even get me started.
Look, having sex 8 times in one night, get the fuck out of here, man. I mean, that sounds great, but that's exhausting.
Again, maybe
marathon. And it's 8 different women, so you have to bring your A game every single fucking time. It's not like 8 times with your husband or wife or long-term partner, where if you don't bring your A game one of those times, it's fine because you have other things. No, this is the first time he's having sex with all of them. He has to be consistently great every time to be on brand.
And he starts with Ruby, who Ruby is a bit of a dork. Yes. She's very English. She's very like country English. And then there's like these supermodels from all, with awesome bangs, and they're coming in last. That's crazy.
Yeah, right, exactly. You say Ruby.
No offense to Ruby. Ruby's gorgeous. Yeah, say Ruby's not good. It's not like
Ruby's probably the one I was most attracted to, but like,
she initiated. She was.
She's the one who writes it in his leg, which I love that scene because his face is like, this is weird, and her face is like she's biting her lower lip.
She's very excited. She's very eager.
So any more notes for you? Because I finished mine through, so it's up to you to finish us off.
Oh, it's all right, really. She's just having a rest. Yeah. Lots of him. So much Technicolor I wrote, but yeah. Uh, I just I think there's so much sweetness about him. Uh, um, yeah, gosh, I was like some modern jokes for Daniel Craig. He's I know. I do. Maybe I have to rethink about my list when I start stacking up my Bonds and Bond girls again because I think I hadn't seen this movie in years. It's crazy.
This comes out of nowhere. You forget about it, because it's one of those ones that it's a one-off, right? And it's a one-off. Like I always just think of this as in the Sean Connery run, even though it's not Sean Connery, because I think the sensibilities are still there. Once we get to Roger Moore, the sensibilities of Bond changes,
right? Almost on purpose, yeah.
Oh, absolutely on purpose. But yeah, so I guess, Jenny, the big question is to end the conversation off: was this a successful mission by James Bond 007?
100,000,000%. This is something I offer to, again, you almost like wish it was like if you were like, hey, watch this James Bond movie with me, and everyone's like, well, which Bond? And then you tell them this one, they're going to be like, no, and I'm like, don't let that deter you. It's just it fits. It all fits within the movie. It's all great. It's pretty cohesive, and I do like it, and he's just going to be a different Bond. You either do like him or you don't. But I think about it. I think he is kind of an accumulation of a lot of Bonds. And Emma Peel's there, and Telly Savalas is there. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. As I said, this is top 10, maybe even higher. It's top 10 and not 10, right? Like, I love this movie. I texted Ginny as I was watching it, like, I love this movie. And I just think that I don't know, like I do like Lazenby as Bond a lot. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's the best Bond, but I think given enough time, as I said, he could have been definitely a mid-tier Bond, which is huge because like Connery and Brosnan, for me, are the top, and Craig, I would say, are like the top three. So to put him up with those three, to say he was 4 to that, I think would be a big compliment.
And maybe he was just a little bit out of his era. Maybe if you just pushed him in the 80s instead of like Timothy Dalton, then we welcome something great and just interesting. And then
that's true.
Who knows?
But yeah, and I love the fact that we have Dame Judi Dench as the Bond girl, which is perfect. Telly Savalas as Blofelds. I think that so much of this movie works. I think it's a bit long. I think it could be cut down a bit, but I think ultimately this is a huge success. And friend of the show, John Rice, who's been on the show before, has a question. Do you think any other Bond actor could have pulled off this movie? It's a fantastic question.
I wonder, I wish Timothy Dalton had done this movie because I think they're very similar. But I don't know if you did redo this movie in the 80s? See how that goes?
So I don't know. I don't know if I could envision time and place. So I'm going to pretend that we have the actor of James Bond when they were in James Bond, but doing this movie in 1969. I'm going to say that I think Pierce Brosnan could. It's not similar to the Bond he gave us. I just think Pierce Brosnan is a good enough actor to be able to pull this off, although it would not be at all the Bond that we saw.
You want to give him a true love.
Connery,
you want to give him a one true love. I want Sean Connery to have a one true love. And I want it to be with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah, and we call that movie Entrapment. I don't think Connery could do this just because the way his Bond was written and the way he played it was a bit too misogynistic for the love story to work. Roger Moore was a bit goofy. I don't think Roger Moore could have pulled this off.
Goofy.
Dalton probably could have. I think Dalton has the serious side enough, but Dalton is also kind of cold, and so I don't know if he would be able to
he
bring
can warm up. That's the next step. Where's the pre-step? Yes, I think so.
I'm not saying he can do it. I don't know. The fact is, there are only 3 things I've ever seen Timothy Dalton in, and that is James Bond, the episode of Doctor Who where he is the evil Time Lord,
right.
and the Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol, not Beautician and the Beast.
I've never seen Beautician and the Beast. That's one of Reg's movies, not mine.
It's so good.
I would see it for him, and that's Fran Drescher, right?
Yes. Oh, it's for Fran. It's Sound of Music meets King and I. It's great, but with like a Russian dictator.
Oh, nice. I did with a Russian dictator.
And Fran Drescher
John's gonna throw some shade.
Ew, Dalton. Ew, you. He's mad.
That was Ginny's favorite, John.
I love him so much. I love him so much.
And I guess I think Craig could have done this, but also Craig, that's an unfair advantage because Craig is someone who is a modern man, and I think, as you said, that this James Bond is a bit more modern than we were ready for. So yeah, so that's my answer. I don't know about how you feel about it.
No, it's great. I was like, I kind of, and then part of me wants to see Connery do it. Just be like, what if you just were turned up or something? Or what if we just, but then, I don't know. I don't know if he ever gets there. I don't think he ever gets there in his career where he gets to be super sweet and like loving and tender. So. Not like,
I don't think so. Nothing jumps to mind.
He's always sort of a jerk.
But it begs the question, is he always a jerk because of subliminal typecasting for James Bond? Or was he cast in James Bond in those roles because he had a jerkish quality, which lent itself?
Great question. Chicken or the egg? I don't know.
Exactly. All I know is it's okay to hit a woman, but only with an open fist. Which is, I don't know if you know this, but he had said that in a Barbara Walters interview in the 80s.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Sean, no.
Yeah. Sean was a problematic gentleman. But you know what? He lived long enough to die. He lived long enough and still got to die the hero because no one cancels dead celebrities.
All right. So my killing.
All right. So I guess that's it for this installment of Double O Deep Dive. Thank you for Ginny. Thank you for joining me. This is the episode I've been dying to get to.
Of course, it was awesome.
Join us next time. I'll be posting on I'm not sure when we'll be going on again because it's scheduling has been kind of difficult for me, but I'll be posting on the pages when we are going next. But if you like this and you want to see if you liked hearing me drone on for an hour and a half about stuff and you want to hear more of that, then you can join Eddie and I at Granny's Peach Tea, where we cover everything geeky and comic book and video game and cartoon. Man, our purview is getting bigger. We're going to be covering this week the season finale of Titans. It's this for Monday, 8:30 series finale of Titans, doing a retrospective of the series. Going to be talking Flash, almost getting to the end of Flash. Going to be talking Gotham Knights. Sorry, that drained my energy.
Unfortunately.
And going to be talking Superman and Lois, that perked me right back up. If you like, I know sports is upon us again. Baseball's upon us again. If you really like sports and you like Ed, he's got the Empire 161 show. Him and Lisa talk everything Yankee baseball. They cover all the games of the week and talk about the highlights, the lowlights, and all sorts of crazy things I'll never understand not being a sports fan. If you like the Mets, then you can tune in to Bossman Faraci, who does Put It in the Books, does the same thing about the Mets. Really deep dives into the season. We got, I believe, Don, Am I in the Air with Don Owens. Don Owens is on Am I on the Air. He does also a lot of other pop culture stuff, a lot of does movie reviews. Not sure what he's got coming out this week, but always a fun time. As well as Ashley giving us the Skyliner reviews, talking Disney parks. So you can find that stuff on the website. Join us on Pop Culture Pros, the Facebook page. Join us for everything we don't get to talk about here. And yeah, I guess that is it. Thanks for joining us. Ginny, any final words before I close this out?
Woo! Can't wait for the next one.
That's right.